rather than the products of software. Free software allows you to make services for your customers. The service of providing them a solution which they will then use to run their business. That's what people want. And 80% of all of the software written in the world today is not written as closed source, proprietary, shrink-wrapped software. 80% of the software written in the world today is written by people who are trying to do a job. They are systems administrators. They are people who are creating embedded system software. They are integrators who are trying to get their customers to have software which does the job for them. And so if you are out there and you're going to hire a systems administrator, why not hire somebody who is an open source person? Because they will be able to leverage the entire open source community to help to solve the problems that you have. And then, why not make your solution open source so that other people can benefit from it and other people can help you make it better? I have a friend of mine who is a free software systems administrator. And he said, Maddog, every day I go home, I sit there on the couch beside my spouse, and I write software to help me do my job. I send it up to the internet. The next day I go into work, I find out that 10,000 other people were doing the same thing that night. I feel like I'm talking into the end of a microphone, and there's an amplifier out there amplifying my job. I said, yes, that's what free software is, an amplification system. In fact, if you go to SourceForge right now, you'll find out that there's 230,000 different software projects done by over more than 2 million software engineers. And a lot of people say to me, I've been there before. A lot of those projects are duplicates of each other. Some of those projects nobody's working on anymore. Maybe those projects are finished. Maybe that software is done. Maybe that software doesn't need any more changes. Maybe there's no company saying, we have to change the software so we can get our customers to buy another copy. But the source code is out there. And if somebody does need to change that code, they can. A lot of people say, a lot of those 2 million programmers don't do very much work. Well, I've known a lot of professional programmers that didn't do very much work. In fact, I knew some professional programmers that the more work they did, the worse the situation got. But even if you only take 1/10 of those programs and 1/10 of those programmers, you still end up with more software and more programmers than any company has on the face of the earth. Now, Microsoft has about 70,000 employees. And out of the 70,000 employees, 28,000 of them are in sales and marketing, and therefore do no useful work. If you take the rest of those people, some of those people are working in a cafeteria. Some of those people paint lines on the driveway. Some of those people are security guards. Some of those people put software in the boxes, and some of those people take software out of boxes. So if you take a look at the real number of people in Microsoft who have the name software engineer, and I'm guessing at this, but I would guess between 7,000 and 8,000 software engineers in Microsoft. Compare that to 10% of 2 million. And that number is growing rapidly every day. So let's take a look at the jobs that you do with free software. These are actually the jobs that you do with proprietary software. And with free software, you do many of the same jobs. And you get paid the same or better amounts of money. Programmer is one thing you can do. And yes, there's plenty of people who earn a living writing free software. They write software for the company that they work for. And they utilize software written by other people to help them do their job. Systems analyst, a person who goes in and analyzes what the customer's needs are, and then tells the customer what types of software solutions are available for them. They get paid to do this. Systems administrator, administering Linux systems, or BSD systems, or other free software computing systems. And people who manage both Windows and free software. All these are jobs to be paid for. Teaching people how to use the software. People pay to learn how to use software. You can teach them how to use free software and be paid for it. Integrating people's other software with free software. Another job you're paid for. Recently I was at a conference and somebody said, Maddog, you're always talking about the money which leaves Brazil versus the money that stays inside of Brazil. Well, let me tell you that for every dollar that leaves Brazil to pay for proprietary software, $12 are made inside of Brazil by Brazilians. I say, great, that's wonderful. But why are you sending that $1 outside? Why not keep that $1 inside of Brazil to pay a Brazilian programmer? Because you see, it's not just $1, it's $1 billion. And that $1 billion could give a lot of jobs to Brazilian programmers. With free software, there's no reason for any of the money to leave the country. And all of that money can be brought back in to local jobs. Now, with closed source software, here's what people typically do. They buy the software, and what they're doing is they're paying somebody else for the software they've purchased. Then they install the software, but the problem is that they themselves cannot fix the errors that exist in that software. Then they integrate the software, but unfortunately they cannot change it to make the parts work better together. Then they can teach about the software, but they're never going to be as good an educator as the software teachers from the company that made the software. Because the company that made the software is by definition the expert in how that software works. And finally, they can administer that software, which basically is tracking and policing licenses. With open source, you can do all of those things better. You can change the individual components of the software to work better together. You can do programming to extend the software for the customer. You can help them to integrate and fix errors in the software in their time frame and not the time frame of the company that produced it. And as an educator, you can become just as knowledgeable